Structures of the human brain. A research that measures brain activity and biological and psychological behaviors. Containing more than 100 billion nerve cells, the human brain is characterized as the most complex organ in the human body. Virtually all aspects of human beings in regards to behavior, biological, and mental functionings, psychological, are better understood if we have pure knowledge of brain functions. For every blink of the eye, every thought, image, or sound received, the brain's neurons are busy sending each other neurotransmitters with specific messages to undergo activities. Brain damages and functional brain imaging are two techniques that allow scientists to watch the brain in action. CAT scans, as well as PET scans and MRIs, are good resources to see which structures are being stimulated as a person is submitted to a specific activity. What makes the brain such a great mechanism to study is its numerous structures that work together to introduce emotions, stress, judgment, memory, smell, hear, taste, and speech. With these activities come the many different functions of the cerebral cortex basic lobes, such as the frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal, which we will talk about later on. The limbic system, the amygdala and the hypothalamus, and the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. All of these structures define the brain's activities as an individual goes through the psychological activities of fear and emotions and stress and the biological defined behaviors of sight, smell, and speech. Human beings experience different varieties of emotions depending on the situation. The emotions are all stimulated and controlled with the help of the brain's limbic system, a region that is between the brainstem and the neocortex. The structures involve the hypothalamus, the amygdala, and the septal area. Richard S. Snell further defined the structure as a system via the hypothalamus and its connections with the outflow of reaction with the automatic nervous system and its control of the endocrine system that is available to influence many aspects of emotional behavior. The structure creates a pathway that allows for experiences full of emotions to come into consciousness. If a lesion happens in the limbic system, it causes a change of emotion characterized as impulsion, depression, anxiety, and agitation. The hypothalamus is a major contributor to the experiences of emotions. When it is electrically stimulated, it causes emotional changes in people. It can produce and act sexual arousal. The amygdala is also a very important structure involved with emotion. It is located in the top of each horn of the hippocampus and is particularly involved in the formation of emotional memories. It has also been proven that it is involved in the processing of fearful facial expressions in humans. Lesions in this area can cause individuals who have a lack of fear and anxiety or to have an overabundance of it. Overall, the limbic system produces fear, anger, sexual reactive emotions, visionary functions, and memories. Another region in the cerebral cortex that controls emotions, just like the limbic system, is the frontal lobe, who also deals with cognitive thinking and memory. The frontal lobe is active especially when a person needs to concentrate, judge, create different emotions, or do voluntary motor activity. The region of the cerebral cortex is also with the other four lobes of the brain's hemisphere, and it sits behind the forehead by the temporal and parietal lobes. The case study of Philip Cage, who was a railroad worker who got an iron rod driven through his frontal lobe, demonstrates frontal activity with emotions. His behavior after his survival informed neurologists about the functions of the frontal lobe and, most importantly, its dramatic effects on emotions. Before the accident, Gage was quiet, mild, and a hard worker. But after the accident, he was irreverent, impatient, irresponsible, and indecisive. He was a completely different person. This showed that the frontal lobe does control the expression of emotions because it was seen with the damaged frontal lobe. The frontal lobe also controls the motor cortex, and it's what helps individuals keep their balance and move their muscles coordinately. It also coordinates the thoughts, manipulates information, retrieves memory, and figures out future behavior. It helps human beings be responsible by processing judgmental, plans, decision-making, anticipation, and creating awareness. Just like the frontal lobe, the function of the other lobes of the cortex illustrate a human biological activity. The brain cerebrum has 4 lobes of the cerebral cortex. Each of these lobes has specific functions. Parental lobe, in front of the occipital lobe, contains the somatosensory cortex and is responsible for the main functions of processing sensory input. For example, when you go ahead and you touch something really hot or very cold, the skin sensors transmit the message to the parental lobe to retreat the hand, saying, "Ouch, it is hot, do not touch it." On the back of the cerebral cortex is the occipital lobe, which is used to process visual information. When a person sees an image, the sensory receptors in the eye send information to the thalamus, which then sends it to the primary areas of the occipital lobe, where the features of the stimuli are recorded. Then there's the temporal lobe, who is in charge of the auditory cortex that works with the sound frequencies in spoken languages. When the temporal lobes receive sounds, it puts it together into words and speech. Language is yet another great biological behavior that requires brain activity in human beings. With the ability to speak comes the functions of the 2 hemispheres in the cerebral cortex. They are asymmetrical and divided by the corpus callosum, which is a reciprocal pathway that links hemispheres. The right and the left hemisphere are both very important in the making of speech and language, although the left hemisphere is more highly concentrated in speech and language. The left hemisphere contains Peirce-Broca's area, which is assigned to function in motor speech or spoken languages. It's what stimulates and regulates the muscles in the face, in the lips, in the tongue. There is also the Wernicke's area, which is another area on the left hemisphere that functions in sensory areas, in concern with understanding spoken words. So, instead of speaking them, you understand them as if they come from your verbal memory and as if they were from muscle control. The left hemisphere is also very responsible for language that is visually seen in reading or writing. Even though we don't know that these structures are working as we speak, their structures are indeed working. Stress, the act of feeling worried or anxiety or agitation, is another psychological human activity that is controlled and stimulated by the brain. Psychological stress responses is a reaction of the nervous system and the body to perceive the threat. When a person has gone through stressors, the brain goes through a process called homeostasis to calm the body. The chemicals that are released to stimulate and tranquil the brain cells and bring the body back to normal are the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. When a person reacts to stress situations, they go through a fight and flight response, an emotional and psychological reaction to an emergency that increases the readiness for action. Once the brain is activated for response to stress, the hypothalamus, which is part of the limbic system, sends the messages to the pituitary glands, which are located below the hypothalamus, to release the ACTH hormone to the bloodstream, which stimulate the adrenaline glands. When this happens, it is called a sympathetic activation, where the adrenaline glands release the endocrine hormones called epinephrine and norepinephrine, which causes the increase of the heartbeat, blood pressure, and breathing. On the other hand, the parasympathetic promotes the relaxation of the body, which helps the body return to the normal state. Many discoveries of why human beings behave the way they do come from brain lesions and brain images that have been observed throughout the years. Being able to link the brain activities to biological and psychological behaviors builds on the knowledge of how the human behaves. Psychological behaviors such as stress and emotions all deal with the limbic system and the frontal lobe. Biological behaviors such as sight, hear, touch, and speech are linked to a specific lobe in the cortex of the cerebral hemisphere. Neurologists keep telling us that our brain is plastic. It can be molded to learn, to function, and to work however human beings program it. The only catch to it is understanding what structures of the brain are working when those biological and psychological activities are being done in order to understand the great mechanism of the brain.